All right, today we're jumping into a technology that seriously blurs the line between a real-world lab and a science fiction movie. It all kicks off with a pretty simple question, but believe me, the answers could completely change how we think about, well, everything. So, let's get into it. Just let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about plastic filaments or resin. We're talking about using the actual fundamental building blocks of the universe as your ink. And get this isn't just some late-night thought experiment. It's the future that scientist Charles Chase says his team is working towards. So how on earth is that even possible?
Okay, so before we get to the really mind-bending stuff, we've got to wrap our heads around the core concept. And honestly, it all boils down to one really powerful analogy that just makes the whole thing click.
We all get what a laser is, right? It's a super-focused, powerful beam of light. Well, what Chase is talking about is doing the exact same thing, but instead of using light particles, photons, he's using matter particles, like electrons. That's a huge, fundamental shift in how we approach things.
So this is where we see the key difference. A regular laser uses photons, which are a type of particle called a boson. You can think of bosons as being really social. They don't mind cramming into the same space and state. But this new device works with fermions, the stuff that makes up you, me, and this desk. Fermions are kind of the opposite. They're antisocial and hate being in the same state. Getting them to line up and act together is the real breakthrough here. The result? You don't get coherent light. You get coherent matter.
And here's the secret sauce. At the quantum level, every particle also acts like a wave. A laser works because it gets all those light waves marching in perfect sync, what scientists call being in phase. This new tech is all about doing the exact same thing, but with the waves of matter. And once you can control matter on that fundamental level, oh boy, that's when things start to get really wild.
Okay, so now let's look at where this is all heading. This isn't just a cool science experiment. According to Chase, this is a brand new tool for manufacturing on a scale that is almost impossible to imagine.
Yeah, just look at that number, 0.02 nanometers. I mean, what does that even mean in the real world? Well, to put it in perspective, a single atom of gold is about 7 times wider than that. We are literally talking about the ability to build things atom by atom.
And when a capability this new comes along, it needs a name. And the term they're using is atomtronics. It's this whole new field that's not just about building tiny things, but about creating completely new kinds of chemical reactions that have never been possible before.
So the game plan is pretty straightforward. You learn to control the waves, you figure out how to combine them, and boom, you can invent new materials and build anything you want from the ground up. And that's when Chase himself dropped the bombshell. He called it the start of the replicator. And that one word, that's where this whole story just took off into the stratosphere. I mean, let's be real. When a top-tier scientist says the word replicator, people are gonna listen. And they are absolutely going to start connecting the dots, moving from what's proven in the lab to some pretty enthusiastic speculation. And the reaction was immediate. This quote is from YouTuber Ashton Forbes, and you can just feel the excitement and shock in the moment. That simple phrase, start of the replicator, wasn't taken as some casual analogy. For many, it was heard as confirmation that science fiction was officially becoming science fact.
And the logic behind this leap, it's pretty simple and honestly pretty powerful. If you can truly arrange individual atoms any way you want, then you have the absolute foundational technology for a device that could create any object, seemingly out of thin air, just like on Star Trek. But the speculation, it didn't stop there.
From there, the whole conversation spiraled into something even more profound, something that sounds less like futuristic science fiction, and frankly, a lot more like ancient magic. We're talking about the creation of entirely new forms of matter. And again, this whole idea came straight from the source. Chase himself suggested that by combining these particle waves, you could potentially forge super heavy elements that don't exist in nature, but are theorized to be stable. And that idea, well, that just opened up a complete Pandora's box of possibilities. So once that idea was out there, people like Ashton Forbes started asking some really big questions. Could we really be on the verge of synthesizing brand new stable elements? Is this basically modern-day alchemy, the power to transmute one material into another? And of course, it wasn't long before someone connected it to the legendary element 115 from UFO lore, asking if this could lead to a new fuel source powerful enough for interstellar travel. More specifically, Forbes made the direct jump to the infamous story of Bob Lazar, who claimed decades ago that he worked on captured alien spacecraft that were powered by a stable, super-heavy element, element 115. The speculation here is that maybe this new atomtronics technology is the path for humanity to finally create the very thing Lazar was talking about all those years ago.
Which leaves us with this massive final question. We started this journey with a laser for matter, and somehow we ended up talking about alchemy and starships. Whether this tech leads to better computer chips or literal Star Trek replicators, one thing seems clear. If we actually master building with atoms, the world as we know it changes forever. So what do you think? What would be the very first thing we'd build?